Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhairagale, ni hao, chunashumme, washwale. Ohai gunzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Halishuma chatore, ahlan wasalan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabia, bhalli kare aya, hosh gal den, anayo sayo. Khuya mora, chi vato, chi hal yud, kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside Shahzad Hassan Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, I think what we really need to do is today I would want my audiences to kind of communicate with me. And all you have to do is that you really need to go on to your Facebook, your Twitter, make sure that either you write to me on my Twitter handle, which is with the name of VJ Shahzad Khan, or either on Facebook, our page is with the name of World This Morning, and let us know. What do you think, whenever it's Monday? So every week, whenever you are about to get your week started, what do you think? What do you think the previous night? And there's a reason why I'm asking you this. So the sole reason why I'm trying to ask you this is that imagine that whenever, on a Sunday evening, I'm about to sleep or I'm preparing myself for Monday, there's only one thing which I think, and I pray to Allah Almighty that Allah Mia, please make sure that every single day when you give us an opportunity, when you give us a newer day, when you give us a newer sunshine, please make sure that you take us closer to our goal. Because I believe that every individual who's actually present over here on this planet Earth, we call, have a reason to be over here, and they need to contribute to the well-being of the human race, the well-being of this planet Earth as well. And how you find your place, where you really need to kind of add on or contribute to the well-being of the people, ladies and gentlemen, that's for you to decide and realize. And nature has its way of telling you that, hey, you know what, you're not done yet. You really need to keep going. You really need to push yourself. You really need to have friends around you. The sole reason why I came up with this thought is that while I was reading this book, a wonderful book, there was this line which said that you could begin by treating yourself as if you were someone you were responsible for helping. So imagine we ourselves, individuals, are responsible for helping ourselves. Rather what we do, as humans is to kind of rely on people, to expect from people. And that's something which I learned very earlier in my life. And that was that, hey, you know what? I won't be expecting anything from any individual. Rather, what I need to do is that I need to pray to Allah Almighty every single day and make sure that anything if I need, I'm going to ask it from Allah Almighty. So please make sure that you help yourself in the first place. But other than that, today happens to be a very important day. Before I move on to that, what are we talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now that we kind of move on towards our top stories. So with top stories, number one, and I mean, it's a little scary one as well, but for people who are out there, please make sure that you pray to Allah Almighty that something of this sort and this magnitude does not hit Pakistan, because the Pakistan Meteorological Department has warned that a very severe cyclonic storm, Biparjoy, is gaining strength and has now turned into an extremely severe cyclonic storm in the Arabian Sea, moving northward in the last 12 hours. The Pakistan Meteorological Department, PMD, stated that Cyclone Biparjoy is very likely to cross over the area between Pakistan's KT Bandar and Indian Gujarat on June 15th. The cyclone now lies near latitude 18.1 degrees north and longitude 67.5 degrees east at a distance of about 760 kilometers south of Karachi, 740 kilometers south of Thatta, and 840 kilometers southeast of Ormara. The cyclone system will maintain its northward trajectory. Maximum sustained surface winds are 150 to 160 kilometers per hour with gusts 180 kilometers per hour around the system center. Within and sea conditions are phenomenal around the system center with maximum wave height 35 to 40 feet. According to Pakistan Meteorological Department, the system is located at a distance of 690 kilometers south of Karachi, 670 kilometers south of Thatta, and 720 kilometers southeast of Ormara. And just over the weekend, I was in Karachi. I had some business over there. So imagine that in Karachi, it was the 144 which was in place so that people couldn't really go to the beach. And imagine, us being Pakistanis, I think I've never seen so many people, that too around the coastline as well. So I think it's a warning for all of those individuals who are out there. Please make sure that you stay away. If the government's telling you that this is something which is coming our way, we really need to be very careful about it. And just yesterday, it was at a distance of 850 kilometers, and today it is at a distance of 760 kilometers. So all we need to do is make sure that we pray to Allah Almighty that please, such a destructive cyclone should never ever get to the land. In fact, may it be Pakistan, may it be any other country, may it be anywhere all over the world. Let's pray that everybody stays safe from Biparjoy cyclone. But now moving on, where it happens to be a good news, and we all know that that there was this barter trade agreement which was signed in between countries, and first of its kind, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif said, has been fulfilled another promise to the nation. Congratulating the nation, the Prime Minister said he's glad to announce that the first Russian discounted crude oil cargo has arrived in Karachi and will begin oil discharge today. He said today is a transformative day and we are moving one step at a time toward prosperity, economic growth and energy, security and affordability. The Prime Minister said this is the first ever Russian oil cargo to Pakistan and the beginning of a new relationship between Pakistan and Russian Federation. Wow, that's such a good news to wake up to, and this is when you certainly know that that your country is actually headed in the right direction. So obviously all applauses, ladies and gentlemen, for the entire government of the PDM and our Premier Mr. Mian Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif Saab for having that vision with which Pakistan can progress and move towards prosperity every single day. So congratulations to all those Pakistanis and people of Russia, because that's another step closer to having brethren relations with the Russian Federation. Wow, it's just beautiful to see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are done with the top stories now. It's about time that we move on towards what we are talking about. And while we are going to talk about Biparjoy as well a little bit, we will precisely be touching upon it as well. But today happens to be 12th of June and it is a very important day. And why is it an important day? Now, the core reason why we certainly really need to kind of raise awareness, and we feel that over here at PTV World, we are responsible to raise awareness. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that today, when I say that it happens to be a really important day, it happens to be World Day Against Child Labor. And we certainly need to talk about its theme because it says that social justice for all and end child labor. So first of all, I would like to give away a few figures. Now imagine that we have seen a lot of children over here in Pakistan, in fact, working. There are different forms of child labors as well. There's bonded labor over here. And 160 million children are actually working as child labor. And to be very honest, imagine that this will actually reduce their chances of having a great life. Now, imagine that it will stack more against them not going to get education. And then once we speak about education, obviously they will never have a sustainable job with which they can earn a little more as well. So they are going to stay stuck to that. Now, there's a reason to this. Obviously, there was a decline. The figure wasn't at 160 million. It was quite low before COVID. And as soon as COVID came in, we all know that, a lot of families were pushed below the poverty line. And when we speak of families going below the poverty line, obviously, that's what they resort to. So every individual who they have within their household will certainly have to go outside, work and contribute to the economics of their household, which is why, unfortunately, that's something which happened. But when we are to kind of look at, okay, which are those particular areas on the globe where, the child labor is actually kind of very excessive. So we really need to kind of focus on Africa and then Asia Pacific. Then we certainly need to kind of talk about Asia as well, because developing countries, ladies and gentlemen, have the most population of the child labor, and we certainly need to kind of be against it. The International Labour Organization, there was a ratification number 180, and then there was 132, due to which obviously the child labor was decreased. But now what we certainly need to focus on is, what are those grassroots causes with which we can certainly be sure about that, okay, these are the reason, and then when we eliminate it, because we are speaking of social justice and for any child, because if my child is not working and your child is working, God forbid, if you're in front of your television, I know that it's going to hurt you, that, okay, there are people who have a very different life, and there are my children who have a very different life, and that's not something which should be supported. And I do know for sure that the government has been working on this as well. But very quickly, without any further ado, I would like to introduce my wonderful guest over here to raise awareness about World Child Labor Day and obviously against child labor. So ladies and gentlemen, first up, I'm very lucky that I've actually been joined by a youth leader as well. He happens to be a youngster from Pakistan. He is Mr. Kaisar Nawab. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Assalamu alaikum. Very positive energy from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And I feel wonderful, ecstatic, on top of my energy, and looking forward to this day and whatever opportunity Allah bestows upon us and blessing bestows upon us. First of all, to be thankful, and then making sure that I'm going to seize that opportunity as well. And that's exactly how I want every other individual out there to feel like as well. But when we speak of child labor, ladies and gentlemen, imagine, and then we say that, it's going to stack the odds against them getting good education, or, eventually, having a very sustainable salary to themselves, or having a great livelihood. Ladies and gentlemen, what we really need to focus on is that obviously there's going to be some psychological impacts on them as well. While they're going to see that, okay, I'm working over here at this workshop and somebody out there is going to a school, imagine what a child would feel. Then imagine that, that towards the evening, or, towards the afternoon, there are children who are going to the park, but then there's this child who's actually working for somebody or fixing somebody's motorcycle or a car. How do you think that that child is going to feel? So those psychological impacts really need to be read. We really need to make sure that, people out there are more aware of it, so that if they see something like this, that they are certainly ready to raise their voices and concerns for it as well. And for that, we're very lucky that we've been joined by somebody who happens to be a clinical psychologist. Her YouTube channel is Happy Being Foundation, and it kind of works 24/7 to make sure that they're always speaking about child labor and how child labor really needs to stop. So we're very lucky that we've been joined by Ms. Afreen Athar. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum salam, and I'm very good, and thank you for having me and giving me an opportunity for discussing about such an important topic.
Thank you so much for joining us, and it's wonderful to have you over here, which is why, so I would like to start my conversation. First of all, Kaise bhai, what I would want you to kind of answer is that how do you see that, 12th of June is a very important day, and how would you highlight the significance of this day, what we call World Day Against Child Labor?
Thank you again. You already explained very well.
Thank you so much.
So what you mentioned is that 160 million children
come under child labor.
It's like a huge.
True.
This means that 1 out of 10, if you see 10 children, the one is just happening as a child labor.
Exactly.
And now thinking that what are actually those reasons, you already, some of them you already mentioned, that we need to see around ourselves actually. Why? Because Pakistan is the one of the largest populated country with huge population.
True.
And in this population there is around 70% young people. And these young people, there is a higher chances that there will be more children.
True.
And if I see even in my own family, I can see like 3-4 children just normally. But when you go out even in the streets and somewhere abroad, you might be able to see even 3-4 children in the whole street.
True.
Why? Because we have this culturally, traditionally, and even religiously as well, believing in having more children is not an issue at all.
I mean, we do not believe in having more children. I think what we certainly believe in is not thinking about stopping to have children.
This is true. Even having more children is a blessing, which I believe as well.
Alhamdulillah.
But at the same time, when you will be realistic and you see the current situation, particularly regarding number one, the unemployment.
True.
For example, if I see if I am recall my own child life, and I am a privileged kid of the Pakistan who been to school.
True.
And who been to university, who been to college, and alhamdulillah now having a job as well. This is the more privileged part, which I have a job.
Exactly.
Why? Because there are so many kids who been to school, who been to colleges, who been to universities. The parents did it all, but they sent out.
And I certainly agree to this. And obviously, people really need to be rational. People really need to think with their rational minds. It's not just that, hey, you know what, having a lot of babies is just fine. Obviously, as humans, we do certainly feel the pressure at times to kind of fulfill their requirements. It's education, it's health, it's your time which the kids will eventually need. So people really need to plan on this. And obviously, when it comes down to our religion, it's a very different setting because everybody's going to bring in their own risk. But what we are talking about today, Kaise bhai, is that, how should we put an end to child labor? That's the sole question. And what happens is that I think that one of the core reasons, because this day can actually be a catalyst to making sure that every single year when so many people come together, they're going to make sure that, okay, we're going to raise our voices and that too against child labor. But what we really need to talk about is the universal ratification, which I mentioned right in the beginning, number 182 and 138, which actually kind of talks about minimum age, not just that, which will actually provide all forms of child labor, that awareness that, hey, you know what, you're protected by law. Now, the sole purpose over here to kind of talk about these universal ratifications of International Labour Organization is that people out there are not aware, so nobody knows that, hey, you know what, if our child has been working somewhere and that too forcefully, if somebody is pushing them to work, they are protected legally.
So this is again very alarming. You are talking about the international laws.
True.
Let me just remind you the local tradition and the
true.
culture and the law as well, which is more powerful than the international laws. Why? Because we live in a traditional societies.
True.
People believe in the localities. People go on internationals, maybe in Islamabad, just few, not even more.
True.
So let's talk about the larger part of the country where the larger people are living. For example, I remind my own university days. I was working on the garbage collectors. You were talking about the kids who are working in workshop. They are actually a kind of a technical people.
True.
But let me see, I have this unfortunate kind of memory, which I see that when we were going to the classroom, those fellows who used to take a juice box, they throw it on the same place, while this guy who is a garbage collector, even he was working inside the university,
True.
he was collecting the
Those
garbage
empty juice
of those who are the educated class.
True.
Now, when I used to work on that and I visited the families of those garbage collectors, the father is laying in this tent and he is enjoying the so-called life, and he has 9 kids, and every kid is earning that time in 2014 around 1,000 rupees. I can say that now an engineer cannot earn 1,000 rupees in such an unemployment situation in Pakistan.
Exactly.
So now when you multiply by 10 kids with no cost, nothing, no expenses like no electricity, nothing. I mean, for example, this family is earning, let's say, 7,000 rupees a day, and you multiply just by 30 because they don't have a Saturday or Sunday.
2,10,000.
2,10,000. So just imagine like a family is earning 2,10,000. Now this father who is also uneducated and he has no trust on the system.
True.
And when I graduated as engineer, in my class there were like 50 engineers, only 5 got job. Now when you just try to convince them, they will ask you the first question, what do you do?
Exactly.
And when you say I do nothing, when how much you spend on the money on education. So there is like several questions that need to be addressed.
And we'll certainly, I'll come back to that as well, because, you know, just before we open up the show, you know, certainly we wanted to kind of bring more awareness about Biparjoy as well. You know, it's a cyclone which is out there, and it's somewhat around 760 kilometers away from Pakistan, and we need to kind of get more information. I would want my audiences to be more updated on this as well, which is why I'm very lucky that I've been joined by the one of the officials of the Met Department, Mr. Zahir Babar Sahab is with us. Hello sir, Assalamu Alaikum, good morning, how are you feeling today? All right, so we're trying to get him online, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as he's online, I'll certainly will make sure to kind of have all the questions which I have in my mind answered as well. But I'm going to move on to Miss Afreen over here. So Miss Afreen, now he's very rightfully mentioned that, God forbid, you know, when we were at university, imagine that all of those garbage collector boys and girls, you know, who were probably 10 years of age or 11 years of age, and then we were the ones who were at 21 or 20 years of age, privileged and whatnot. Don't you think that there's going to be a psychological impact on those children? Now, number one. Number two, imagine that every household, now I've seen, and I'm so against it, even if I've seen it within my own family, I've raised my concerns about that, and I've raised my voice about that. I'll come back to this question, but I have Babar Sahab with me as well. So Babar Sahab, Assalamu Alaikum, good morning, how are you feeling today?
Walaikum Assalam, and good morning to you as well.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. So, sir, there's been news about Biparjoy, a cyclone which is only 760 kilometers away from Pakistan. You know, what's your update on this, and you know what can we expect, God forbid, if that's the direction it's going to maintain?
Yeah, this is an extremely severe cyclonic storm which is present over East Central Arabian Sea, and it's almost 690 kilometers south of Karachi and 670 kilometers south of Thatta. And it's moving in the north. For the time being, it's moving in the northerly direction, and then after it will be recurving into northeastwards direction, and it's expected to cross on the 14th June morning, almost between Keti Bandar, that is southeast of Sindh, and Indian Gujarat, and on 15th June afternoon. So it's going to cross on 15th June afternoon between Keti Bandar and Indian Gujarat coast as a very severe cyclonic storm.
If it stays on the same course, right?
Yeah, it's going to follow the northerly direction, and then it's going to recurve. It's expected, as the models are predicting, it's going to recurve in the northeast direction.
And Sir Baba Sahab, with that, I think what's more dangerous is that imagine that the wind gusts were somewhat around 180 kilometers to 160 kilometers. How do you think that people of that particular area where you think that, God forbid, this cyclone might reach, need to do? How do you think that we kind of reach out to them and be like, hey, you know what, everybody needs to keep themselves safe? And what do you think is the standard operating procedure in such a cyclone? Can you guide?
Yeah, please. First of all, keep updated with the weather forecast.
Sorry.
So you must be knowing that where the tropical cyclone is and how it's going to affect your certain place where you are living. And if you are in the affected areas, let's say in Thatta, Sajawal, Badin, Tharparkar and Umarkot districts, they are the most likely to be most affected by the approaching severe cyclonic storm.
Exactly.
So the most destruction is caused by the strong wind. They are very squally winds, high-speed winds, and accompanied with extremely heavy falls, with a lot of dust and thunderstorms, accompanied with the tropical cyclones. So you have to be on the places which are on the high places, high-rise maybe.
All right. Probably, and if we are to speak about Thatta and Badin, I think these are rural areas, and the infrastructure is not that solid too as well. So people might, or the government might, the local government might need to vacate those places. God forbid, if that's the kind of direction the cyclone is going to maintain. But sir, very quickly, what I would want to ask you is that we've heard a lot of news that okay, there's this cyclone coming and this cyclone coming, but Alhamdulillah, all of that have been averted by Allah Almighty, and it's not that this might have ever happened. In the history. So do you think that, that the direction might change in the coming days, and then, so everybody gets to be easy at homes? Or do you think that that's something which is coming our way, or we need to prepare?
For the time being, I think we should be extremely prepared, because all the models, they are predicting that the track is in the northeastern side.
All right.
So as the time progresses, let's see how the models behave. But for the time being, they are indicating that it's going to cross between KT Bandar and Gujarat on 15th June afternoon.
On 15th June. Thank you so much, Baba Sahab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And for everybody who's actually watching PT World as of now and our transmission of World this morning, please make sure that you spread awareness. I think this is something which we should all feel responsible for, and that to make sure that you call your people, if you know somebody in Thatta, Badin and all of these areas which Baba Sahab actually spoke about, tell them that, hey, what are your preparations? How do you think that you're going to prepare for it? God forbid if this happens, ladies and gentlemen, we really need to be preempt, we really need to think about it. So now coming back to Ms. Afreen now. So Ms. Afreen, what we spoke about was that, in my university, if, somebody threw a juice box, the kid is there to pick it up. God forbid, we go to, so many different relatives' places where we do see a lot of children working in the kitchen, probably helping with whatever, house chores are out there. Then we have seen that, that there's this trend of having a 12 or 15-year-old boy or a girl who's actually going to look after a newborn baby. Don't you think that it will have an impact on them psychologically, growing up, seeing things which they cannot do, but they certainly want to enjoy in their life?
It's a really sensitive question, and anyone who is observant and who has a heart can experience this and feel this. So in my opinion, if a child is not developed holistically, holistic development includes all of the domains, including physical, psychological, social and emotional aspects. And if anyone is getting minus from these elements, the child will not develop properly.
Right.
And in that case, if a child is involved in any form of child labor, but basically there are two forms of child labor, hazardous and non-hazardous forms of child labor. But regardless of any form of it, children must be given the chance to get their quality time at particular age bracket, for instance, for at least till 16 years of age. As Child Rights Convention defined childhood as any person who is below the age of 18 is called a child.
True.
So if a child is not getting the chance to get everything what they are observing in their surroundings, they will be more prone to psychological disturbances and emotional disturbances.
True.
Particularly, the child will experience low self-esteem issues, the child will be hopeless and helpless. This will create long-term impact on his or her personality on the long term.
And Ms. Afreen, when we speak of low self-esteem issues, do you think that, once they're going to grow up, they might not ever be able to live a normal life? Or have you seen such cases, in your years of practice?
Yes, it's a vicious cycle. If a person is not getting quality education, 25A is what's saying that every child must get education, quality education till the age of 16 years. But
At
if
least.
at least 16 years. So if a child is not getting education, the cycle will be broken down, and then he or she will not be able to get quality life in his or her future.
True.
So once the child is not getting what he or she must have, it will create a vicious cycle, and it will impact his adulthood as well as old age.
Exactly, and then once he's going to become a father or a girl, daughter, is going to become a mother, you know, they would certainly want to kind of pick up on this very field because there's so much less to kind of do, and then there's a lot of earning which actually comes in. And on this occasion, I'm actually going to share this incident which actually took place in Lahore, sir. It is a very interesting one. So one lady who actually got married into a very rich house in DHA Lahore. And so what happened was that obviously, you know, every single day, everything was fine. Their life was going normal. There were 3-4 cars parked outside in the garage as well. And then one day, that daughter-in-law actually woke up a little earlier than the time she used to wake up, because by the time she used to wake up, her father-in-law, mother-in-law, and her husband actually used to go out for work, and you know, the house would be completely empty. So imagine that this one day, you know, she wake up a little early, probably 5 a.m. in the morning, and she could see that her father-in-law, that her mother-in-law, that her husband, actually everybody's getting ready as a beggar. And that was the day when she realized that she was actually married into a family where their business was to go and beg outside. Imagine they were living in a DHA house, God forbid. Imagine that they had 3-4 cars parked inside their own porch. And I would like to say it in Urdu as well. It's a very authentic story. It is from Lahore. And the sole reason to share it in Urdu is that people are so habitual of easy money these days that, you know, that when we speak about issues like child labor, people certainly have no understanding. So imagine Lahore में DHA में एक घर के अंदर एक खातून की शादी हुई, और जब उठती थी नॉर्मली जो उसकी ज़िंदगी थी उसके अंदर उसके ससुर साहब, सास साहिबा और उनका जो मियाँ था वो चले जाता था काम पे, तो खाली होता था घर, शाम को वापस आते थे। एक दिन उनकी आंख खुल गई सुबह 4-5 बजे। जब 4-5 बजे वो उठी तो उन्होंने देखा कि उनका ससुर, उनकी सास और उनका मियाँ जो है वो फ़कीरों वाले कपड़े पहन रहे हैं और तैयार हो रहा है, कोई पट्टी बांध रहा है, किसी ने बाजू अपनी तोड़ी हुई है, मतलब जैसे भी पोर्ट्रे करते हैं। एंड दैट वाज द डे शी रियलाइज दैट उसकी शादी उस घर में हो गई जिनका कारोबार पैसे मांगना है। सो वी डू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ menaces over here within the society, and we really need to address that. Now, how do you think that we can address this issue? Because everybody is so habitual of easy money that we certainly cannot get those children out of that vicious cycle which Miss Afreen spoke about.
This is very interesting what you
I
told.
have people, you know, so, okay. So I make sure that my feet always stay on the ground. I have a lot of people, you know, for example, beggars, you know, who are on the streets out there, and I call them my friends. You know, I have some lively conversations, and they have spoken to me by themselves कि हम महीने में 5-6 लाख कमा लेते हैं.
So just tell me how much was the size of this DHA house? A canal or?
Well, obviously, it must be a canal house.
Because now I'm thinking like to leave my own job and to take this.
God forbid, God forbid. But imagine, you know, we should always pray Allah Miyan, you know, to
This
give
seems
us
to
some
be a
respectable,
motivating and
yes,
inspiring
source of
story,
income.
like a successful entrepreneur story. Why? Because I tell you my own story. That
But this is haram in our religion, so I think you know, we're not going to promote it ever.
when
And
you're
imagine-
speaking about international laws and then international life standards and then bringing haram is something else.
Exactly.
Why? Because I tell you something, my own experience. I used to take this route from this D-Chowk, the Blue Area main route. And then every day in the morning, there are only 3-4 individuals who used to beg. And they actually knock at you. When it knock at you and you are on driving seat, it knock here.
Yeah.
And when you don't, they will come and see the other side. And until and unless you speak to them, they will not leave you.
True.
So every morning I used to call 15 and I asked them, please ask your bigger team. They have the Islamabad police have their
True.
very active bigger team, but in the evening, not in the morning. So I don't know what's the logic behind that. But in every
They have a
morning,
24-hour shift, that's why.
I don't know, but the evening shift is more active.
Yeah.
So I used to call them every morning. My name is this, and please ask somebody to remove this on this signal. Maybe they deputed it on another signal.
True.
So one day nothing happened. Next day nothing happened. And on the 4th day, I noticed that there was no one. So 1 week I realized that something has happened. But on the next week, the routine is again same. Now the only thing is that we never actually complain and record to the authorities, and we never speak up on some of the issues which is not directly to us.
No, but there's a reason, Kaisar for that, and the reason is that we are emotional. You know, as Muslims, we certainly do not want to create hurdles and problems for other people. We are like, okay, yaar, if they're doing this willingly, or if they're doing this willfully, why should we be there to hinder? Why should we be there to make their lives more difficult? Because unfortunately, they are from that underprivileged sector or the segment of the society.
When you are
So I think
giving
as
money to
Muslims,
them,
we do not
yeah.
do that.
When you are actually giving money to them, you are even making them more worse. This was the issue which happened when these IDPs came to different cities. Why? Because the state was giving a cash amount of 25,000 that time to the young people on each one in the family.
camps, yes.
Now what they did, they actually habitual of this cash money. You are not giving them a skills. You are not giving them a dignified job.
Yep.
You are giving them a cash, which is something you are making them not a dignified person. They will be again a bigger.
Exactly, and in addition to that, because there's been a lot of debate and argument on this, that okay, for all of those people who actually give charity or do charity, that too and give it to the beggars, they shouldn't be doing it because they're promoting it and whatnot. But imagine then at the same time, there's this one thing which I certainly believe in, and that is number one, that whenever you're doing charity, you're doing it in the name of Allah Almighty. You're not thinking about who the other person is or what they do or whether you're promoting it, number one. Number two, I think that the sole reason for me to do it, I'm not going to talk about anybody else or be more generic about it, but the sole reason for me to do about it or to talk about it is that the reason behind for me to do it is that imagine that when you give in the name of Allah Almighty, for the people who are deserving, or you think, or when you end up arguing with another friend that okay, they're not deserving, I think you get what you deserve, and you even get what you do not deserve from Allah Almighty. So that's the sole reason what we have spoken about, why I would speak about it. So, and again, I would want to say it in Urdu as well for my audiences out there. ये है कि देखें, कभी ये बहस ज़रूर होती है कि जी जो सड़कों के ऊपर बच्चे खड़े हुए हैं तो उनको जो है वो पैसे नहीं देने चाहिए क्योंकि आप उसको प्रमोट कर रहे होते हैं. आपकी बात ठीक है, जो भी देने वाला है वो अल्लाह की ज़ात ही होती है, देने वाली बंदा नहीं दे सकता, वसीला होता है. तो वो अपने हाथ से जब देता है, उसका रीज़न ये नहीं होता कि उसको बच्चा बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा होता है या कोई और, वो अल्लाह के नाम पे दे रहा है और अल्लाह की राह में दे रहा है. लेकिन उसकी दूसरी बात ये होती है कि वो इसलिए भी नहीं रुकता देने से, उसको ये भी पता है कि मुझे अल्लाह वो भी देगा जो मेरे नसीबों में और वो भी देगा जो शायद नसीबों में नहीं है, इसलिए हाथ नहीं रोकते हैं. So the argument is always going to be there.
The
But
same
I
like,
think even
inshallah.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has never actually sent anybody back and that too empty-handed if there was a sawali on his door. So that's something which we need to learn. But very quickly I will move on to Ms. Afreen over here. So Ms. Afreen, now imagine that this is where our debate and argument is as of now, that we certainly need to stop these practices. How do you think that psychologically people get attracted to some things which are easier in life? So for example, if I'm going to be at home and I'm getting paid from any channel or whatsoever activity I do, and even if they are like, okay sir, Saad sir, you do a wonderful job, you do not have to come to the studio, it's all right, we'll keep on giving you the salary. Do you think that I'll come to work? I'll be like, okay, I think it's fine, everything's sorted.
Yes. The psychology of getting an easy money is what they are. Parents
That's what
are
everybody wants.
Yes, parents are actually transferring their thinking pattern to their children.
True.
And if a child is prone to get their education, if for instance, one of the time I remember that one of my maid, she has a child, and she used to bring her child with her. So I always ask her, why you are not getting admission for this child. So she said, if I agreed, then he will always say that you are creating problem for me because I am not able to earn money for you, and in the end it will create cost for me and you. So the child is getting that information from the parents, that if I am not getting education, I am getting more and more money from an early stage.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think this is a question for both of you. So now this question is that I believe that there's an increase in child labor over here in Pakistan because of those fathers who certainly do not do anything. Because imagine that the workforce or the domestic staff we at our homes, it's usually women, number one. And most of the time, whenever you question those women that, okay, why do you have to work? They would always say that either my husband is a druggie, he's a drug addict, he doesn't do work, he beats me and whatnot. So there's a lot of domestic violence in the lower segment of the society as well, where the woman is actually pushed outside her house to go and be the breadwinner. So imagine if a father is not doing anything, then the children will certainly have to contribute, because that every day, God forbid, if he's a druggie, obviously he'll certainly need money, or probably this is the trend which I do see. How do you think? Do you think that if we kind of push ourselves to make sure that their husbands or these children's father these children father are actually going to contribute towards their economic beneficial or try to make sure that they're going to earn something, we can actually reduce the size of the child labor pocket?
This is a very interesting question, and you very interestingly analyze it as well. Now, if I can explain it in my angle, it's a bit different. When we see and when we talk about inequalities regarding gender, for example, women, men, transgender, and then you will find a lot of different questions like this, that you will see a very rare cases. This is in a very rare cases that my husband is a druggie and my husband don't want to work. Why? Because he is considered to be superior as a society as well.
True.
And that's the reason I'm working. While in another part, we also support women to work, and we also do activism towards the women to be equally contributed in the economic and social development. Same as we say that here is a gender discrimination when there is less women in the working field as well. Now here is a debate again. But for example, culturally speaking, I belong from KP.
Alhamdulillah. Mazakiyam?
There the situation is totally linked with
Different.
the rich tradition and a culture, and where society is so much linked with the culture and the traditions
But
and
they
the
even, you know-
Pashtunwali,
Exactly.
where women don't need to work, but still I support women to work.
Obviously.
Now I'm not a druggie, but I want to support to work.
No, but obviously you're going to go to work in the first place now. Only then you'll be able to say to your wife, okay, yaar, I think that we both need to contribute to our household. The motive is very different. The motive
True.
over there is very different, and we certainly need to educate them. I think that's something what we can do. But with the help of social justice, do you think that we can eliminate child labor?
I think the social justice is a very big word for low-income countries, developing countries like Pakistan. We have a lot of issues. Social
At
justice,
every level.
Social justice is not even ensured in the developed world.
True.
Even I can see a lot of. I traveled across the Europe, UK, and US, and all these privileged classes, and I have seen people laying on the roads in London. I have seen children even begging in Europe.
True.
Mostly they are immigrants. So the world is totally different when you see in realities.
True.
But when you see in movies, it's totally different.
Yep.
Now, I thinking, while what Pakistan need to do, let's have a constructive conversation about what we need to do as
True.
practical steps. There should be insurity of jobs for those who graduates.
True.
If you see, there is like
That, okay,
thousands
if you're going to graduate from a university, there's no way that you're not getting a job. In fact, there needs to be a surety
I tell you
that okay,
something.
you will get a job.
I tell you something, 25,000 engineers, software engineers, every 6 months graduated in every semester. And these 25,000, this is the Pakistan Software Export Board data.
Yep.
What the guy mentioned to me, that in these 25,000, only 5% engineers know how to work.
True.
If you give them any software or something that I need this coding, they can work. The others, 25% need a little bit training, while the rest need at least 2-3 years training, and the 50% don't know nothing. So now this is what actually the universities are producing.
True.
And this is a big question on higher education system in Pakistan. It's a very typical education. We are still believing on those education which was given to us by somebody else. We don't follow the modern and the emerging education, which is based on skills, technical skills. And I know I just explaining one
Sure,
within
sure.
30 seconds.
Sure.
There is a guy in my office.
Yeah.
He's a rider. He no English. His father was died, and he studied just a normal education and just a metric pass.
We can write and
And
read.
he come up as a naib kasit. Now this guy actually learned how to do this digital marketing and online jobs, and he owns now a company. His company name is Digital Chachu.
Wow.
Because he owned the
He has a
beard
beard,
and
yes.
is a kind of chachu, and he do very honestly his work in the office as well. In the evening, he used to go to somewhere there in the Islamabad Stock Exchange, and he sat there and he has 5 team members. And those 5 team members, one is the MPhil graduate, one is the bachelor, and one is the lady who is also expert on communication. Now
Wait.
this is the technical education actually which gave you empowerment, and he is earning not less than $2,000 a month.
Alhamdulillah, and obviously, ladies and gentlemen, for people who certainly need to progress in life, when they have this dedication, when they have this passion, obviously they can put an end to anything, for whatever kind of life they were living, they will certainly bounce back, and everybody needs to have this. And very quickly towards the end, I'll move on to Ms. Afreen Saiba as well, because this is a beautiful example. I've seen a lot of people of such sort who certainly want to change their lives around. But do you think people who have actually been involved with child labor, and if they had a childhood which was traumatized and they couldn't really play, they couldn't educate themselves, can actually turn their lives around psychologically? Do you think mentally they're able to do that? Very quickly.
Very important thing to discuss is there must be some mitigation steps to deal with these aspects. So one of the mitigation can be training children on different skills, vocational training skills, like if they are getting education and they are also getting vocational training or of any skill or type, so they will be more better in gaining their financial prosperity, or economically they will be better, and they are also getting education. So it will enhance not only the economic situation of their family, but they will be educated too. So one of the mitigation is that. And in the second step, parents must be given an awareness and guidance on the importance of getting education. So their child will be fulfilled in emotional level, psychological level, and they will be able to gain more money in a respectable way.
Exactly, and thank you so much for wrapping it up so beautifully as well. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, it needs to be a shared responsibility of all of us. Imagine, so this day, it was my responsibility to come back over here on television, prepare for the topic, and make sure that I raise awareness amongst all of you people in 46 different countries, that we, by making sure that we ensure social justice within our society and communities, we can certainly put an end. And that too, ladies and gentlemen, child labor. And we certainly need to kind of think about other children out of the streets just the way we think about our children. Imagine what we can do is, alhamdulillah, so I practice first and then try to preach. And what we can do is that every individual out there who wants to give back to the society, there's only one child you really need to educate. If you're going to educate one child only, I think that it can create a lot of difference. Please make sure that if you can send a child to the school, do send them to the school as well. But thank you very much, Kaisar bhai. You want to say something?
Only 10 seconds.
Sure.
This is the
Take 20 seconds.
Thank you.
I'm a generous guy.
I was the naughty child of my school, and every time my school teachers used to ask my parents when I did something wrong. But I was
a naughty kid?
I was a naughty kid, but I was the topper of the class as well.
Okay.
So this was the only thing that kept me in the school, and this is why I've been to that school. Otherwise, they struck me off.
Which school was it?
That was Fauji Foundation.
Fauji Foundation. I mean, I went to Air University as well. They're very strict with discipline. Tie पहन के आओ, ये तुम्हारी belt किधर है, तुम्हारा badge किधर है, all of that. But obviously, it has contributed to my personality. It has contributed to my personality development. For all of those people, once again, it's a shared responsibility.
The message.
Another 10 seconds, please.
The message is that let the child do mistakes.
Yeah.
Let the child to be child.
Yeah.
And don't expect child to be of your age. And this is a message to every parent, to every teacher, to every elder. So I think when the child will do a mistake, which is considered to be a mistake and not a mistake for the children,
True.
This can actually bring creativity into them, critical thinking into them, and this can actually bring innovation, which is urgent need of this country's social development and all the progress.
Exactly, and thank you so much for saying that, because I strongly believe that Kaisar bhai has hit the nail on the head, and that's something which I believe myself as well. Thank you so much, Kaisar bhai. Thank you so much, Ms. Afreen, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And towards the end of the program, ladies and gentlemen, this one amazing human being who we have over here in PTV world, his name happens to be Chaudhry Numan. It's his friend's birthday, so I've just got a request that please make sure that you wish him a very happy birthday. So Raja Hamad, happy Hash Day to you, brother. And चूंकि आप चौधरी नुमान के दोस्त हैं, तो मुझे पता लग गया आप किस किस्म के इंसान हैं. So thank you so much for being a friend of his. And Chaudhry Numan is a very dear guy to us. We all love him over here at PT World. He's got a great positive energy. So happy Hash Day to you, Raja Hamad Saab. And right after this, I would certainly want to have a piece of a cake as well, and that too from Chaudhry Numan, because if he's there to wish his friend, I think what he really needs to do is that he needs to bring in a cake for his friend too as well. So happy Hash Day, Raja Hamad Saab. Until next next time, ladies and gentlemen, all I'm going to ask you is to look after yourselves. Make sure that whenever you pray, raise your hands to Allah Almighty to pray. Make sure that you pray for me, my entire team as well, and for everybody who's out there. Have a great day. Have a great week ahead. Good morning.